So many of you know that I'm a pharmacist. I have been a pharmacist now for about 17 years, and pharmacy is really interesting in relation to perfectionism. So, in pharmacy, you are really held to perfectionist standards. When I used to work at mail order, we were really presented like our error rate as a parts per million. And if it was too many parts per million, we would get into trouble. When I used to work in the IV room at, at a hospital, it was a lot more immediate, right? Like if you messed something up, it was a big deal, like a really big deal. Like every day you go into work and you're like praying that you do not mess anything up because somebody might die because you've messed something up. So I would argue that most pharmacists probably have some perfectionist streaks. And I would argue it's actually probably helpful in that line of work to have some of that, just like it's helpful as a pharmacist to have some obsessive compulsive tendencies. Not the kind where you just do something repetitively for no real known reason, but liking things to be in exact order, like knowing that your red pen is right where you need it and that you know where all of your labels are, for example. Like that is good as a pharmacist. But it's not always good for us, right? So think about if your job requires that of you, and if it does, think about how that makes you feel. I have a little of that OCD side, just a little bit. It's not all the time. And I actually used to enjoy working in the IV room because I got to really like let that OCD flag fly for the day, right? And I kind of found that fun, but I was able to turn it off when I left. However, I didn't really find like the pressure of having to be perfect fun ever. And there it's so real. The pressure to be perfect is so real because someone's life is on the line. It is very real. But thankfully, in much of our lives, being perfect is not required, right? We don't kill somebody if we mess up dinner, if we try a new recipe and it goes awry. We don't we don't generally suffer anywhere near as much as we think we will if we mess something up. And like it or not, we're all human and we all mess things up. So I think where I'm going with this is that if you don't need to be a perfectionist and you notice that you're being a perfectionist, it may not be great for your mentality and for your self-love and your self-worth if you're constantly holding yourself to what I'm going to call usually unobtainable standards, right? Like pharmacists mess up too. We're human. Luckily, we try really, 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 really hard and we try not to mess up and we do a pretty good job. Really good job, actually. But it happens. It happens to the best of us in trying as hard as we possibly can. But what I want to say is that we don't always have to try so hard. It's fine to mess up. Usually, it's fine. It doesn't matter that like, if we try something new and we screw it up, oh well, we can learn, we can get better at it. Perfectionism can actually like rob us of that desire to try new things. It can make it so that we don't want to pick up a new hobby. A hobby where if we do mess up, it doesn't matter, really. But if we hold ourselves to such crazy standards, like crazy high standards, that we don't allow ourselves the grace of being a beginner and being new, it's really, really joy robbing, right? So what I'd love for you to do is just think about where in your life Do you not need to be perfect? It may be everywhere. It may be everywhere. Wouldn't that be fun? Maybe you're a pharmacist and you have to be perfect at work. But is there an area of your life where you can cut yourself some slack and give yourself grace and let yourself just be human and celebrate your mistakes and say, I tried something new. I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to learn from this. Or not. Maybe you'll make the same mistake again. You're human. It's okay. As an entrepreneur, you're asked to go outside of your comfort zone all the time, more than I ever did in pharmacy. And so if you're a perfectionist and you're trying new things all the time, it can really mess with your head, right? I think that's probably why a lot of entrepreneurs, they give up and they stop. So you really have to develop the mentality that you're in learning mode. You're a beginner. You know, if I have an event and 4 or 5 people show up, that's great right now. I'm going to have another event and I'm going to do maybe a little bit better. And I'm trying new technology, you know, and if I try this new technology and it doesn't work, well, I can try again. I can try a different technology. I'm just constantly learning and constantly in beginner mindset. And so if I was still in perfectionist mindset while I was in beginner mindset, well, while I was doing all these new things, it would be awful for my head, awful for me, and awful for me to love myself, right? If I was just messing up and beating myself up for the mistakes all the time, no. So some ways that you can help with this, if you notice that you are kind of in that perfectionist mindset a lot when you maybe don't want to be, is to consciously take imperfect action. I have that phrase everywhere. Take imperfect action. It's written in my planner. It's written on my computer on a post-it. It's everywhere. Take imperfect action. And often that's enough to just be like, oh yeah, I can do this. Another thing is to ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen? Like, what is the worst thing that can happen if this goes awry and goes terribly? I make a mistake. I mean, sometimes the mistake is good. Sometimes you'll be cooking and you'll do something that does not turn out how you want, but it'll actually be like better than you thought it would be. Maybe better than it would have been if it was done absolutely correctly. Another thing is to just decide. Perfectionism can make it hard to decide and make decisions. So I have that written around also. Just decide. Just do something. Is it the perfect decision? Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? I'm going to try it. And if it goes well, wonderful. And if it doesn't, I'll try something else next time. That is like the entrepreneur mindset. You just have to decide and do things and see what happens. And keep taking imperfect action. Keep taking imperfect action. Love yourself because you took action and you tried. You did something more than a lot of people did today. So anyway, a couple of the tips that have really helped me. Yeah, I would like to not have to work in an environment where I have to be 100% perfect all the time if I can help it. Not very much. It doesn't do good things up here for me. So I have to say I'm really glad that I'm doing this most of the time, and it's fun. It's so fun. Once I got out of that mindset and got into like imperfect action all the time, everything is fun, everything is new, everything is an experiment. That's the other thing. Look at it as a scientist. We're experimenting. We're trying it this way, then we're trying it that way. We're changing a variable and doing something different. So anyway, hope that helps. And I have a couple of stories for you tomorrow. So excited to share those with you. I noticed something happened today, and I noticed how much differently I reacted today than I did when something similar happened in the past. So I will share that with you tomorrow, and happy weekend. A lot of you have a 3-day weekend, so have fun. It's going to be warm in Ohio too. It's going to be like in the 50s, which is exciting. So, all right, bye.